As promised to some of my followers, I am coming up with next video, which will be basically a tutorial. What you are looking at is FENIX aircraft. This is specifically Airbus A319. If you are one of those people who are either new to flight simulator and you are interested to fly with jets, specifically FENIX aircraft, because in my personal opinion, FENIX Airbuses are basically the best you can get nowadays for flight simulator. For the purpose of this tutorial, I am not going to turn on any traffic, no AIG, not beyond ATC, not ATC at all. Basically, it's gonna be just us flying from point A to point B. I decided to do these tutorials because I believe there are plenty of people still who are, like I said in the beginning, either new or they don't have any clue how to even prepare the aircraft, and they would love to do it. It's their passion, it's their hobby, you name it. Maybe they never tried to fly with airliners, and that's why I'm bringing you this video. So let's just consider that this tutorial is for the beginners. So here we are. The state of the aircraft is currently cold and dark. Okay, this is what it's called, cold and dark. Pretty much nothing is on, everything is off. Notice we have the tablet over here. This is the tablet provided by FENIX. We're going to be using this tablet in a moment. So before we even start doing anything, the very first thing to do is to set up a flight plan. I believe that many of you will be familiar with it already, but if you are not, I strongly recommend this SimBrief website where you can create your flight plans. To open an account with SimBrief is pretty much free. You don't have to pay anything. So what we have to do, we have a dispatch here and dispatch system. So we're gonna click dispatch system, and then this page will load. And this is my previous flight. So what we're gonna click now, we will click over here on the left side, new flight. We are looking to this page, which may look a little bit overwhelming perhaps at the first stage, but don't worry. If you haven't worked with SimBrief before, there's nothing to worry about. It's super easy. In fact, there is just a few parts we have to fill in. As we are flying today with British Airways, you have to put ICAO code for British Airways, and if I'm not mistaken, it's BAW. I think so. Yes, I think so. And then flight number, let's just say 123, just for purpose of this tutorial. Again, that's entirely up to you what you select. And then departing airport today is Dublin. So the code for Dublin is EIDW, Echo India Delta Whiskey. And we will be flying to London Stansted, which is Echo Golf Sierra Sierra, EGSS, and the time is basically synchronized with your location, so we will keep it as it is over here. The alternative airport, let's keep it on automatic. And then aircraft type will be Airbus A319 right over here. And also we have to choose an airframe. So in this case is A319 by FENIX over here. IAE engines, so we will click on that. And this is pretty much it. You don't have to do anything else. Of course, you have a choice to assign yourself a departing runway and so on and so forth. Since this is a tutorial and we're standing closer to runway 28 left, I'm gonna select that. And I'm gonna confirm that I want new standard instrument departure. So yes. And then it'll calculate the route basically for us. And once we have all that, all you have to do now is basically click generate flight. All right, so this is done. We can return, we can just minimize it, go to simulator. So once we are done in this step, we are pretty much ready to fire up the aircraft. But first of all, what we can do here in the tablet, you have this icon over here, FENIX, click on it. And there will be this flight, and it says stop to import from SimBrief. So in order for this to work, right, you have to do something before you do that. Up here, you have this settings over here, right there. You click on it, And you need to make sure that SimBrief username is the username you have set it up on your SimBrief account. Okay, it's right over here. It has to be there in order for that step what I was going to show you to work. So make sure you do that first. So let's go back again. And then on the first tab down here on the left, we have the flight and it says tab to import from SimBrief. So all you have to do, just click on it once and it'll read that flight plan we have just created in SimBrief. So we have it right here. Notice it says it's 29 minutes to departure and it's counting basically. So that gives you the time to prepare everything. All right, so we have Dublin to London Stansted. The next step, let's go to look on the top panel. You can do it either this way with your mouse or you can click Control and number 5 and you should see the panel from this perspective. We have to turn on the batteries, which is located right here in the center. It says battery 1, battery 2. So you start with clicking once on battery 1, clicking once on battery 2, and then this external power, it says available, so click on it once. And by pressing keyboard F or key F on your keyboard, you will get back to the previous view or the default view, if we call it that way. All the controls, all the system is firing up pretty much, so this is the normal process in the Airbus. You see that it says self-test in progress. So it's basically testing various things. So we can let it do its thing, couple seconds. Once we have our aircraft fired up, we go back to the top panel. Again, you can press Ctrl 5. And we have the IRS system. So we have to make sure that IRS is turned on onto navigation position. So we have 3 knobs over here. We will turn the first one to nav, second from right hand side nav, and the middle one nav. Okay, this is super important, you have to do that. So let's go back and then notice that the IRS alignment will take about 7 minutes. Okay, that's what it means over here. It'll tell you how long does it take before the IRS is aligned. That's pretty much what it means. We go down to tablet or MCDU basically, MCDU, how some people call it. And it'll be on this page by default. So you have to click on FMGC. So we are clicking on this button next to FMGC once. Once you be presented with this screen, we going to go and click on init. And on the init page, we will see all this kind of information, where we are flying from, where we're flying to, company route, flight number, and so on and so forth. Now that's where the SimBrief comes super helpful. And in order to make this work, what I'm gonna show you, you have to do one more thing in settings of this MCDU, okay? So if you go to MCDU, right here, menu, config, and data link, config, there is this SimBrief pilot name. You have to type it over here. So if I would click on it, right, now it would be most likely blank for you. So I will type my username. Notice when you're typing, it's showing up down here. It's like a scratch pad pretty much. That's how it works. And then once you typed your username, you click to confirm it. To make this appear over here, you just have to click to this button next to that. It's now there and we can return. I can also store as default, right? To basically make sure that it's saved all the time. And I can return. And let's go back to init page. So again, if you didn't do this step right now, the next step, what I'm going to show you, will not work. So it's very important to add your SimBrief over there, okay? And that's a username. So notice how it says init request. So basically, once we press this button, it'll pull all that information from that SimBrief account of that flight plan you created, and it always reads the latest flight plan you created. And since we just created it, it'll read that flight plan. So we have to press it once. It takes a couple seconds, and in a moment you will see that over here suddenly we see that it's automatically populated with the code of Dublin / EGSS, London Stansted, right? So now we are telling already aircraft some basic information that our intention is to fly from here to there. So basically it actually did it for us without us doing it manually. That's the whole point, right, of integration with SimBrief. The whole point is to save some time and make it easy. We still have a couple things we have to do manually, but it's super easy, this part. So notice when it says flight number, it's yellow, there is nothing included, right? It's nothing showing up. So what we have to do, we will type our flight number. So British Airways, BAW, and 123 was the call sign or flight number. And then I will click once here and I will translate that information what I typed over here. Now cost index, this is something we can find out in a tablet. If we go up to the built-in tablet of FENIX aircraft, on the top we have to hover with mouse over there, and there will be this like a captain's hat, I call it, whatever. So click on it once, and over here on the very first page, top right corner, it says CI, which stands cost index. This means cost index. So it says 28. All you have to do is go down here, type 28, and then press to that button next to cost index right here. Okay, and it translated that information over here. And our cruise flight altitude and temperature. Temperature, by the way, will be calculated automatically depending on the cruise altitude. So we also can get that information from here. And for today's flight, it's planned as 370. Flight level 370 is equal to 37,000 feet. Okay, that's our cruise altitude for today's flight. So this number, you can type it different ways, but the easiest would be just 370. It'll automatically recognize that it's 37,000 feet. And it'll input in a tablet as FL, flight level 370, and automatically calculate the temperature, right? So pretty much we have done first few things on this page. So when we are done with that, we can go and press IRS init right over here. So when I say press, so the button next to it, right? And then it says here align on reference. So we want to align IRSs. So we want to press over here and confirm alignment. One more press, and we can press return. We can also download, and again, this is all getting data right now. What I'm gonna do right now, it's all getting data from that flight plan we have created in SimBrief. Wind, so wind data, we can press on wind, and wind request. That's why it says request, because it's requesting and pulling that data from SimBrief. Does it make sense? Because that integration does work together. So we press wind request and just wait a couple seconds. And voila, there you have it. We have our winds for today's flight, and then we can press return. And we are pretty much done on the first page of init page. Okay, so once we have this done, what we can do next is we will start APU. By the way, the crew supply oxygen, you can press once and it'll turn on. And to start APU, you have to start with the button master switch right here. So press it once. It says on, and wait a couple seconds, usually 15-20 seconds. Before we continue. So what is APU? APU is auxiliary power unit. Okay, if we look at the aircraft that is located in this area over here, so we are about to start APU. So the next step, after we wait a little bit, we press the button right underneath this one. So if I click Ctrl 5, it says start, so press it once. and it'll become blue as well. It says on. So in order for us to do step 3 in here with a whole APU thing, we have to wait until this changes to green light and it will say available or avail. And once it does, we can click on APU bleed, okay? But we will not click on APU bleed until we have this showing us green light and it says available. Usually it takes a little bit. In order to monitor it, we can also make sure that we switch APU while we actually have it on the screen. And as you can see, APU is cranking up, firing up. And we have all the information about APU over here, and it says avail, right? Available. So if we look if we look back up, now it's green and it says available, just like I mentioned. So now at this point, you have to press APU bleed right here once and basically make sure it's on. Again, if we look from the back of the aircraft, you notice that APU is now turned on, up and running. Again, that is auxiliary power unit. We now set it up our APU. What is the next step? We have to load some kind of fuel, right? That's very important, obviously. And that's where the tablet comes super handy over here. First thing first, if we look on our MCDU and we are still on init page, if we move with the arrow left or right over here, once click on it, it'll actually move to another page, okay? Another page of init option. And this is the page for the fuel and all that information related to that. Again, of course, this is normally done manually and we can fill on the information from SimBrief data. But in order to make it easy, okay, we can go to tablet, go to this icon of Fenix, press on it, and then go to mass and balance on the bottom. Press mass and balance, and here we have this option which is called load aircraft. So I want you to click on it and you will get a couple options. Now again, for today's flight, I will not be using nothing like GSX, no ATC, no traffic. Let's just make it simple. So I'm gonna select fast time, okay? I click on it once. You can also select instant, but let's do fast time. Now it's gonna show us what's the usable planned fuel. And then it's basically starting to load the aircraft. As you can see, loaded, and the number is increasing right over here because we have selected fast, not real time, but fast time. In this case, it will be roughly 6 minutes. So it's loading. But even though it's still loading at this point, what you can do already is to press this button called Send to MCDU, Send to MCDU. So once I press it once, it'll say success for a moment. And then if we look down here, it'll be populated with all the necessary information about the fuel and load and the cargo basically. So all the weights, all the fuel, it's now loaded in our computer. And it does also reflect over here, even though it's still loading, right? But I have sent that information into computer already, so we don't have to do it manually and we don't have to lose so much time. Again, I will clarify and repeat it. I am doing this tutorial with the purpose to teach anyone who is beginner or anyone who is new to specifically Airbus aircrafts. And if you guys don't have any clue how to do it, this is the easiest way to set it up, okay? Let's not jump into any manual setups because it would be more complex. This way, you have all the fuel and weights and everything done, okay? Now, if we look on the top panel, the external power is pretty much no needed anymore because we now have our APU running, okay? So press on it once, and once you do that, you will disconnect it. And over here, in the tablet, if we go to ground services, we can also disconnect it over here. Okay, so the next step is to specify our standard instrument departure and also arrival for our flight plan. So what you want to do over here is to go to flight plan by pressing FPLN. So we press flight plan once, and then you're gonna see this kind of screen. It has already basic information, right? Where we flying from, where are we flying to? Because we have imported that information from SimBrief in the beginning. So now we want to specify what kind of departure we'll be doing from Dublin Airport. So this is the Dublin Airport. So we click to the button next to it. And then we click once on departure. So I have selected in SimBrief to fly from runway 28 left, which is this one. I click on it once, and then I have different type of seats available. So I'm going to look back to tablet, and in order to remember which one was it, by the way, it says aircraft loaded, so you can press dismiss. We go here again to this icon of the pilot's hat. We press once, and there is an option under summary, routing and impacts. We click on it, and we can see our route over here. Okay, all this is our route from Dublin all the way to London Stansted. So 28L we already selected, and we want our SIT departure, which is this one, and the Q1 Alpha. That's the one we will be departing in today's flight. So remember that, go back to our tablet, and notice it doesn't show here. Well, all you have to do is to use the arrows, because the arrows are representing to move on the page from top to down and from down to top. It's almost like you are using the tablet, and if you are using swiping with your finger, notice that if you want to go down on your tablet, you swipe up with your finger, right? And that is exactly how it works over here. So the arrow pointing up is basically moving the page down. So we will press on it once, and we see another ones available, right? And this is the one, the ND1 Alpha departure we are looking for, this one. So I confirm that by clicking next to it. And once I have it like that, I will confirm it by insert, okay? Insert right here, confirm it once. And now we have updated our flight plan with the standard instrument departure. So we're taking off from runway 28 left, and then the initial altitude climb. We have some restrictions, which is 9,000 feet over here, and then continue to different points. And again, if I want to move down, and we will have to do it, I will tell you why. I have to press to check the flight plan all the way down. From top to down, I have to keep pressing this arrow up to move down. So you move down, you press arrow up. You move up, you press arrow down. That's exactly opposite. And what are we looking at now, which is super important? If we have any flight plan discontinuity, and we do, almost at the end, before the final destination, we have flight plan discontinuity. So in order to get rid of it, and we have to get rid of it, we will click on this clear button here. You have to click one more time until it shows up over here, or a couple times. Right now we have a clear over here showing up, so make sure you click on it as many times until you see CLR over here. And once you do, you press next to that flight plan discontinuity, this button, okay? And then it looks a bit confusing. Once this screen shows up, you just have to confirm it by pressing insert. And basically what we did, we got rid of that flight plan discontinuity. So if we click on flight plan once, we go on top of the flight plan again, and we can scroll through it by making sure that we do not have any discontinuity, and we don't at this point. So our standard approach, star, we don't have to set it up just now. We can do it once we'll be airborne. All right. So this is the flight plan and the standard instrument departure set it up. It's all good. Even over here, you can see, since our IRS is aligned, we can see the position of our aircraft. This is the runway 28 left. If I want to zoom out or zoom in this screen, I can use this knob over here. So if I increase it, I'm zooming out pretty much, okay? This is the numbers, they represent the nautical miles view. All these circles, they represent the nautical miles, so the distance from the position of our aircraft, right? If I zoom even further by increasing the number, I can pretty much see all the flight plan, almost, right? So to make it lower, you see the closer. To make it and increase the numbers, you are zooming out pretty much. That's how it works. The next thing is to turn on the trails, which are restrictions showing up on the actual flight plan. So we click here and we click over here. Make sure that your flight directors are on. They should be on by default. And we also have to make sure that we have a correct barometric pressure, QNH basically. And there is a couple ways to do it. If you press on your keyboard key B, like a Bravo, it will actually do it automatically. So the correct pressure at this point is 1007. It's all gonna be set up on both. And if you do it manually by turning the knob, you have to make sure that the same number is set in Copilot and Captain, and also in this little screen over here. Okay, you can also do it manually. So this is also important, so make sure you do that. Then what we need to do is we can start with the hydraulic pumps. So we have six buttons here to turn on. It's going to be right here, okay? Where it says LK pumps 1, 2, pump 2 center, pump 2 center, pump 1 right, pump 2 right. So we're basically going to do a very simple step, clicking once on each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. So that is done. Super important, guys. Don't forget it. Otherwise, you won't get too far if you didn't do it. Now, if you feel that your, for example, PFD or any other displays are too low in like a brightness, you have these knobs over here. So for the side of the captain, you can change the brightness by this knob. The second screen will be this one over here. Okay. The same goes for these two, the mid screens. We can turn these knobs to make sure we have it bright enough. And then the same for Copilot, one here, which controlling the brightness of these two. If you fly in the night, the knob for the top panel will be this one over here to increase the brightness of the control board or overhead panel basically. Okay, so this is the one. Now quickly we can turn on the emergency exit lights to arm position. So into the middle arm position, no smoking, auto, and seat belts on. We can notify the cabin by pressing all on forward, and we go back. So the next thing we have to make sure one more step pretty much. So we have to set up the performance. Again, I'm gonna zoom it in. So by pressing on performance, we need to calculate our takeoff speeds, right? It already has that information that we are taking off from runway 28 left. We need V1, VR, V2 speeds, transition altitude, which should be correct at this point, 5,000. I have to look it up on the charts anyways. And then the flap settings, right? And flex to temp. So again, this is where the tablet is going to help us once again in the FENIX aircraft. We will go to the built-in tablet. We go to this second icon over here, which looks like an aircraft taking from the side. And we have this kind of window in front of us. Super easy to do, guys. It's not raining, so runway surface will be dry. That's correct. 28 left, it's correct. This is automatically already taken from the sim brief, so Dublin Airport, this is our departure, right? What we have to press next will be optional. You can leave it on flap config. Force toga, keep it on no. Basically keep these things as default and just press once sync low cheat. It will add those weights, right, over here, the numbers which are important for calculation. And then our weather conditions are QNH and temperature. Just sync, make sure to click on it once. Usually it stays same because it's already synced pretty much. But still click on it once and then you are ready to click calculate. Click on it once and within 1 second, 2 seconds max, you will get all the speeds calculated. So for today's flight, we have V1 at 129 knots. VR is at 129 knots and V2 133. Okay, so it's calculated for us, and it also calculated that we will be using flaps 1 in the position up 1.0 and flex to temp will be 80 degrees. Transition altitude 5000. Instead of doing this manually, which you can by any means do, right? Let's just transfer this data very easily by using this tablet, and there is the button here. It says send to MCDU, send to MCDU. Press on it once and it basically turns green for a couple seconds and it tells us that all this data has been transferred. So as you can see now, this data is populated in our MCDU. So we don't have to do it and it makes it super easy for you guys. There is no reason to, especially in the beginning, especially if you are new to the sim and specifically new to Phoenix aircrafts, this is done automatically by pressing one button and you don't have to worry about that. But it's also a super important step, so do not forget it, okay? On this lower console, make sure to click on this little switch, PWS, keep it on auto. And also our TARA, we have to turn it on, basically the traffic awareness system. So first this knob over here, put it on position, and this knob over here, pull it all the way to TARA position. We would not worry today for squawk because we are not using any ATC. So let's just keep it by default. Let's not worry about that. Once you are comfortable with the aircraft and you'll be flying with ATC, you can set it up properly. By the way, to set it, you have to delete it by clear and then type the number, whatever is the squawk. Okay? The only thing we have to do still over here is to set our initial climb altitude. So I'm gonna set 9,000. This is the restriction we are flying to, a first restriction. So by turning the knob and making sure this dot is on, okay, this means that it's managed mode. So it's going to read all the data from our MCDU, all the data as far as the speeds and everything and altitude according to flight plan, and it'll follow whatever we are telling the aircraft to do. So as I have it on managed mode, it'll basically climb to this altitude, and if I don't change it further, I will basically be flying at 9,000 feet until I do some adjustment. So make sure that it's on managed position. That means that this dot is on. It's like showing up, right? It will be like that if you follow the video, if you do the same flight plan. It doesn't really matter what flight plan, it'll be like that. To change it from managed into open climb, you would have to pull it. In real world, you would either push or pull and then turn the knob, but in the sim, you have this arrow down, arrow up. Arrow up is managed mode, arrow down is open climb, okay? So same applies to speed. So managed speed, managed heading. If I change it to open one or basically controlled, I can just click once down, and then I'll be in control of what heading and what speed. But it'll still be dependable on our autopilot, if that makes sense. That is the easiest explanation I can provide, to be honest. The hardest part is behind you. Everything is prepared here. What we will be doing now is start pushing back and starting our engines. Now, at this point, this video will end, and I will continue with the second part. So I will be making this video into a couple parts, so it is not super long. And I hope that you find this video helpful. If you are new to my channel, consider to subscribe to my channel. I will really appreciate that. It does support my channel a lot. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the part 2. See you guys.